Hey guys, Heavy Arms 45 here. Now, recently I put out a video talking about me doing dumb ideas in DMing. And that led me to wanting to tell y'all about my personal view on video games versus role playing games. And don't get me wrong, I've done both now for years. The first video game that I've played was, I want to say, one of those little like very very low budget games you used to get as a kid, where you only had the two buttons, one on one side, one on the other side, and you basically had to control a character with a D-pad and the two little like horizontal lines. It was like Wolfenstein or something like that, or Beastmaster. And after I played that, because that was my cousin's, she got me into playing on her NES, the original Nintendo. Then for Christmas, when I was about 5 or 6, I got a Super Nintendo. I went from Super Nintendo to getting a 64 when I was in junior high. Went from 64 to my brother getting a GameCube. Then my brother upgraded from a GameCube to getting the Dreamcast. Then after the Dreamcast, my brother got the Xbox original system. Then I got the Xbox 360 and he got the PlayStation 2. Then I went from having Xbox 360 to I bought myself after several Red Rings of Death of 360, I got the Xbox One. And after the Xbox One, actually, there's nothing after Xbox One for me. I'm still with the Xbox One. My brother went from a PlayStation 2 to getting the PlayStation 3 to getting the PlayStation 4. And my mom has a Wii. So I've done video gaming for a while. Am I a hardcore gamer? Probably not, because I don't dedicate like several hours to it, because with me having a job, I feel like I'm always trying to find others, and there's all these new shows out that like distract me from it. While on the other side, when it came to role playing games, I was one of those guys that it was like, that's the limit right there. I'm not going to do that. I played I've heard of people playing Dungeons and Dragons, but I thought that they were so geeky. I was a nerd. I sat up there watching all of Toonami, watching Gundam Wing, watching Dragon Ball Z, watching Sailor Moon. I watched anime, so that was where I was at. That's my comfort zone, anime. And I'm not going to be like this nerdy culture that they talking about. And also there was a whole negative thing about people who playing Dungeons and Dragons being sadists. But then I got into college, and one of my roommates that I had got, like my second roommate that became one of my best friends, the one I talked to y'all about the last time, Brian, had told me about a group of people who were playing Dungeons and Dragons. And I'm like, oh no, not that. And it kind of was terrifying to me, because you had to start learning what different type of dice was, because what I originally came from was that there was only one set of dice. There was only a 6-sided die, and you basically use that to play craps or any other casino game you want to play. But coming into the whole idea of role-playing game, you find out that there's a D20, a D10, a D12, a D8, a D4, and some people say there's a D3 out there, but it's not a 3-sided die. It's like a 6-sided die with only 3 numbers to it, 1, 2, and 3. There's a 100-sided die. There are several different die out there and then there's percentage die. So that first time was kind of misunderstanding to me. And the first time I played with a group. It wasn't a big show. It wasn't until after that Bryant decided to put me into a solo campaign, and I played a halfling rogue, and I was sitting up there playing this character, and I came to a wooden door, and I didn't have a key to it. And I'm using my video game logic of this. I'm like, I don't have a key. I can't make. I was sitting up there using my video game logic of, since I don't have a key, this door is not going to open to a role playing setting where it's just dice and two people using their imaginations to build this world. And he looked at me like I was crazy, and he kept trying to spoon feed me. Well, what kind of weapon do you have? I'm like, well, I have a spear. I have a little hand axe. He's like, well, make an intelligence check, and I rolled the intelligence check like Brian said, and he's like, what's your strength score? I'm like, I look over my page, and I'm like, my strength score is 15. He's like, you think you can kick the door down? I'm like, but when he said that I could just kick the door down, it suddenly clicked in my head. I had never thought of just kicking the door down, because the rules of role-playing games had no rules. The only rule, once you actually look in the front of the old Dungeons and Dragons books, was that the DM was law. Whatever the DM said you could do, you could do. But in my mind, there's all these rules from playing video games that I brought into this setting, which there wasn't any. There was no such rule as every door that you run into is, unless it's actually letting you try and open up a door, this door is basically can't be open. Everything is open. Everything is possible. And that's why I love video games, don't get me wrong. But I would love to I love playing role-playing games. One is because of it still has that feeling of the couch potato vibe that you have. You still have this time of being able to hang out with your friends, or sometimes not even your friends, just new people that you've never played Pathfinder with, and you get to see how their character interacts with everybody else. And you can play your character any way you want to. You can make your character just like you. You can make your character different from you. I've seen couples that basically in the game hate the living crap out of each other. I've seen people that they weren't dating in real life, but in the game they almost married, got a kid, have had sex several times. It all depends on the person. Your character is so open to whatever you want to do. The one time I had a kid in a video game was when I played Fable 2. And that child got taken away by Child Protective Services because I killed my husband. It was me being an evil woman. Not saying women are evil, but that was my take of, I wanted to be evil and I also wanted to be a woman. That just so happened to be the mix that I did. That's not... Now, with the same thing though, if I did that in... I've gone through a couple iterations of role-playing. I started off with Dungeons & Dragons 3.0. Then I went from 3.0 to 3.5. 4.0 came down and I said, forget that stuff. And I went to Pathfinder. And Pathfinder recently tried to do a test run of a new system they're trying to do, Pathfinder 2.0. And I'm like, me and my house is staying with 1.0. I like where it's at. And really... even though they try and force you to go to other iterations, if you enjoy one, stay with it. There's some people you can probably still find that play second edition Dungeons & Dragons, even though the system I've heard is kind of wonky, and I can't remember the name of it right now. Some people will still play 3.0. It's difficult for you to find the books, but you can still do it. And some people want to stay with something that keeps close to what they're used to. Like me, I like Pathfinder because it's not far off of 3.5 to where I can actually still enjoy it for what it is. It is a enjoyable thing. And to me, I would rather play a role-playing, Pathfinder role-playing, because even though things don't always go the way you want it to, it is so hilarious to play these games and people come up with different things. And it's also the game a chance of rolling the dice. The dice, whenever you roll them, are just so. It's so funny because a character that I have right now that's named Javo has four attacks, and then he uses haste, and he gets to have a fifth attack. So every time I do, I have a floating shield, and he takes his dwarven war axe because. Oh, I won't get into Javo some other time. It's like what he has right now, thanks to my DM Jacob. He takes his axe with his two hands and he cleaves the creature down. And then not cleaves, but he hits the creature with 5 different attacks, which basically tear most creatures up if he's able to hit them. But at present, I don't have a group to play with that. Well, it's at his level. It's basically him doing solo stuff, and he's not a solo character in a way. He's back in Dungeon Dragon, he was a dwarven defender. Now with Pathfinder, he's stalwart defender. But both of them are made to defend. They're there to. I want to say one of the things that I made him as a defender for. He's supposed to be my way of creating a superhero type character in Pathfinder where he's there to defend people. He's there for justice. He's a lawful good character. And I like that whole thing. You don't have to be one thing. There are different shades of gray. And it's literally up to the DM in some cases on how your character is. And you can have good DMs, you can have bad DMs. And you can just have a DM with a bad moment. You can have a DM that has favoritism. There are so many different ways of coming to a game that even though you can have multiple endings to a game, if you play a video game, you can have so many more different endings in the way you play in Pathfinder or Dungeons and Dragons. I've even played a Star Wars RPG, which I'm gonna talk about that. That one got on my nerves. But for my money, I would play a role-playing game. The only problem is you don't even need power to do it. You don't need any computers or anything like that unless you have your character sheet on your computer. But you don't need a lot of electronics. You don't need to be on the internet. All you need is just you, some friends, some dice, and somebody willing to tell the story. And you can have an original story that they made up or one that they found at the local comic shop. It doesn't really matter. You can be any one of them. And everybody doesn't like role-playing games. I don't care. I enjoy role-playing games. If y'all have a problem with what I said, say something in the comments, and I will catch you later. Peace.